welcome again. This is another episode of Echo Lead Podcast. I want us to take a few moments and dive deep into the green tea. Yes, the green tea. You know, we cannot start an episode without some tea. And in this case, it is green tea. And some of the things that are happening, the highlights of the week is that we had the recently concluded African Youth Climate Assembly. This was taking place between the 1st of September to 3rd of September. And these were different people, youth members from different countries came together and they have said what they want to do is to shape a sustainable Africa. The youth have spoken. I also want you to understand that this is the largest population that we have in Africa, the youth. So they're going to be the largest consumers in the market in the next decade. So what I would say, or what I would do as a business person, because the next largest market has spoken and they have said what they want. They want a sustainable Africa. Then I would start aligning my business so that it touches into their needs. They have told you what they need, so give them what they need, and that is how you're going to thrive in your business in the next few coming years, because like they have said, they want to build, to shape a sustainable Africa. As we as we are recording this video, the Africa Climate Summit is happening. It is continuing at the KICC, and the president, when he was welcoming it, or when he was opening the Africa Climate Summit, he said, I want to put what he said: climate action is not a global north issue or a global south issue. It is our collective challenge, and it affects all of us. We need to come up together to find common global solution. That is enough. That is enough said. Well said, Your Excellency President William Samoei Ruto. He said climate change is a collective challenge. It is affecting all of us, and we need to come up together and find solutions. Now, what I want you to note is that Africa, being one of the poor continents in the world, is going to be affected more by the effects of climate change, whereas we are the people who are producing the lowest amount of carbon dioxide. We are impacting climate change negatively in the least, or we are the least people who are polluting the world, whereas we are going to be affected more than everybody else. So the polluters are not going to be impacted like we're going to be impacted. And the reason is because we are poor. And if we are poor, we do not have resource, we do not have capacity to mitigate or to adapt fast enough to this impact of climate change. So, for example, if climate change brings about prolonged droughts, we do not have the capacity, neither do we have the resources to be able to handle prolonged drought in our countries, in our African countries. That is why it is very, very important that the African countries are coming together to say exactly what they want, because Africa is going to be affected so much, whereas it did not contribute to these climate change issues. That is why the leaders from Africa and even beyond Africa are here in Nairobi, and then they are discussing several things. For example, transitioning of energy from what we are using, the fossil fuel, which is the largest polluter of climate change, or cause contributing to climate change, and we want to see how we can transit to more clean, energy. How can we transit to more green economies? And I hope the conversations there are going to be the beginning of something new.
Equally, sustainability is our business.
So, now that we have the green tea, let's dive into today's topic. And today, I want to talk about something that is very interesting and kind of controversial. And I'm sure you're going to have probably contradicting issues. You're going to have contradicting opinion from what I am going to say. Now, this is my opinion. Let me know what you think down in the comment section, because I'm sure you might have different You're going to have some different opinion. You may never ever, or you may never agree to what I'm going to say in this episode. And so go ahead and tell me what you think down in the comment section. The question that I'm going to ask and try to answer is, are NEMA approvals, are environmental compliances a waste of money for you as a consultant, for you as a businessman, for you as a businesswoman, in whatever area you are in this country, whatever economic activity you're carrying out? How do you feel? Do you feel like these environmental compliances are a waste of money? For example, there are so many licenses, so many approvals, so many permits that you need from NEMA as you're going ahead with your projects. If you're doing a house, constructing a building, you need approvals from NEMA. So then, do you feel, have you ever felt like NEMA approvals, like environmental compliances, these requirements, do you feel, have you ever felt like they are a waste of money? That is the question that I'm asking today. And it's different, and you know what I'm saying. And today I want to look at the costs, the benefits, if any, and the implications that you're going to get if you're to get these NEMA approvals. Okay? And my first point of what I'm going to say first, in regard to whether these NEMA approvals is a waste of time, a waste of money, I'm going to say non-approval, non-compliance is even more expensive. So the question is, are NEMA approvals a waste of money? And the first answer that I give is non-compliance is even more expensive. You get what I'm saying? I know I lost you a little bit, but here what I'm saying is, yes, acquiring the license is expensive because you definitely are going to spend some money as you acquire these licenses. So that one is agreed. There's nothing we can do about it. I sympathize. But then non-compliance is even more expensive. And let's agree on one thing. These environmental licenses are usually, um, I would say, brought about. They're usually provided for by the law. So the law has already been passed. The law is already operational. The law passed these licenses. The law even gave mandate and power to NEMA to be able to charge these monies for approvals. The law is there. It is clear. It has been passed. It is being implemented. So probably at this point there is almost nothing that we can do about these approvals and these licenses. So the thing is, unless there's a collective, like people came together collectively and decided to go on and maybe say this law is not as effective as it should be. There's an outcry from different people. There's an outcry from the organizations that we have, for example, the private sectors. But because that has not happened yet, the law is there, it's clear, there is nothing we can do about it. The only thing we need to do is comply with it. And complying with it is expensive. That one I agree. I know, I have clients, I see them every time. I know it is expensive. But if you're not complying, it can even get more expensive. And let me give you a story. One time when I just started this journey of environmental consulting, I was working at an NEMA office, that is Nyeri County NEMA office. And one evening, we're just in the office. It's a chilled evening, chilled afternoon. And a client walks in, and she's a lady, and she wanted to know the process of acquiring these NEMA approvals. And of course, what you do, you take her through the whole process from the beginning to the end. She was in the business of petrol station, so I personally explained it to her from A to Z. And then I even told her how it is done, who does it. I gave her contacts and even told her if she walks around and she still needs my help, I am here to help. That was my side hustle, of course. I was still consulting on the side. She said I was expensive, but I gave her other options, and so she told me she'd go and think about it and get back to me. She never got back to me. So time passed on. And then apparently when she was coming to the office that evening, that afternoon, she had been served an order by NEMA. You know, when field officers go around for inspections, if they find you non-compliant, they will leave an order. This order has instructions on what you need to do. Maybe you need to do an environmental audit within 14 days. Maybe you need to go to the office. They give you instructions. They leave those orders in wherever they go. So if they come for inspection in your construction site, they leave that order. So the lady had been served with that, and that was why she had come to the office to get the information. Now, the scenario was, of course, we never complied afterwards, and unfortunately, what happened in the process or in that period, there's something that is called rapid response initiative. This is where there is a kind of a rapid initiative that comes on, or there's 1 week of full inspection and enforcement. So the department that is in charge of enforcing these laws and regulations within NEMA offices, that time they are given uh, the mandate, the power to go and even arrest the non-compliant businesses. They close down and they even arrest those who have not complied. Of course, this happens after a long time. You have been given notices, and you really have been found to be non-compliant. So unfortunately, that time happened when she had not yet complied, and so I think the managers of the petrol station, or whoever is found on site, was arrested. The court case, the litigation started off. There's a lot of paperwork that has to be done before that continues. So I think she they found her like today. The managers were arrested, released on board, and so on. And so tomorrow she comes to the office. I believe she had employees on site and was not even living around. And so she had come to try and talk, negotiate with the county director, see if there's a way out. But at this point, it was already too late. The court case was already proceeding, was already going on. So literally, there was almost nothing that the county directors could do or the officers could do at this point. And it was quite unfortunate because the case went through. She was, the court case is not an easy thing for especially for a new business, you know. And yeah, it was quite unfortunate. I remember that lady coming to the office, and I even remember her crying at some point because I don't know. I think that being a woman and seeing how much sympathizing, how much I sympathized, and how much there was nothing the office could be able to do at that point. They were able to help her in any way. And then later, when I came to understand that she had leased the petrol station from the owner few months ago. Now, the mistake she did, or probably she never knew, is that petrol stations usually have annual approvals they get from NEMA. Now, the previous operator had not complied for like 2 years. So he had not acquired these permits, these licenses for like 2 years, and then he left. And then now this lady comes in to take over the business. Now, what she did not do is due diligence. Probably she did never knew that she needed these NEMA approvals, because if she knew, she should have at least asked, what about NEMA approvals? Where are they? Now, according to NEMA records, this petrol station had not been compliant for like 3 years. And that was too much because there were notices on top of notices on top of notices, order on top of order on top of order. So it was defiant. It was taken to be a defiant petrol station. Well, I don't know what happened at the end. Probably she either paid the licenses, the permits, the penalties, peace of mind, the disruption in her life and in the business. And that, by the way, that is what triggered me to want to do this, to want to do environmental consulting outside here, so that at least I can go to help businesses that probably they never even knew or understood that they needed these such permits. If that lady had somebody to advise her before she took over the business, they should have put that on the negotiation table as they were discussing on how to take up the business. And maybe a solution could have been found. Now probably she took all the burden by herself. Her business took the hit. I don't know. I hope she was able to, you know. Anyway, so that shows you how expensive it can become if you're not compliant. So yes, complying is expensive, but non-compliance can be even more expensive. That is all I have to say about that. So what do you think? Do you think non-complying is more expensive, or do you still think complying to NEMA licenses is a waste of money? Now let me tell you another way that acquiring these NEMA approvals can be a total waste of your money. The way it can be a waste of money is if you apply for these permits, you apply for these licenses and not implement them. Then that is a total waste of money. Super expensive. That money should have been used to do something else. For example, you're required to audit your business every year, right? So what you do, you call me out. You hear this podcast. You have a business that requires an environmental audit. You reach out. We do a deal. I do an environmental audit for your business. I come see what you're doing with your business, how you're doing it in your business, and then I do a report. You know, talking about the status of your business. And then I do recommendations in that business. We even develop an action plan. It's called an environmental management plan. How are you going to manage the environmental issues in your business? We develop a plan. This plan has a budget, it has timelines, it has the recommendations. And then I am like, okay, so where do you want to get started? Where do you want to start with this plan? And so you decide, maybe this time round, I'm going to, let's give us a real life scenario of a quarry, a crusher, acquiring and crashing business. And you invite me out to do an environmental audit. We do that, everything like I've said. And then there are several issues I note in your business, and I suggest how you can be able to manage those aspects. For example, one I might say, there's you need to label out stuff or places. You need to give information. Say, for example, a visitor. Assuming a visitor came with a child into the quarry, a visitor or a customer came and they came with their son, and children are children, they walk around. Maybe you're talking in the office and the child decides to go out and something happens. Have you labeled out or have you given information about your quarry operations in that, assuming that child was just looking at the machine, the crusher, and somehow akaslide, akaangukia hizo kamba zenye zinapeleka mawe kwa the crusher. Have you, and I am the parent and I am coming out and I see that happening, is there anything that is going to tell me this is the button that you press to stop that conveyor belts? Because there's a button that in case of anything you stop the conveyor belt by pressing on this red button somewhere. But have you kind of indicated to say, in case of anything, press this button to stop the conveyor belt? Like there should be a sign, you know, so that I can be able to even save. Or somebody else who is just walking around can see something happening and they can be able to immediately stop because it is well legible, it is visible. Have you done such markings, such labeling? That is what I'm talking about. And it is very simple. You even need just a printing paper and laminate that. Enough. Very, very non-financial consequences experienced in this case. But do you do such small things? And then if you don't do that, and I recommended such things, and we even I will talk to you through you saw the sense, but you just did not implement it in your business. And then something, God forbid, like that happens. And now you have a whole case to answer. Life has been lost, property has been damaged, whatever happens may happen. Now it becomes very expensive. At such a time is when all government parastatals, agencies, remember, you have not complied with this, you have not done this, including KRA. Such a time they are going to come by. Because NEMA will come to see, oh, you had done an audit. Okay. Oh, the DOSH will come, the public health guys will come. That when that one thing happens is when all governments offices are going to remember that you are not complied or there's something that you needed. So I think if you do not implement the recommendations you get, it becomes very, very expensive if something was to go south. If there's an environmental incident, if there's pollution, if you find, for example, there's an ecological damage that is going to result to this inadequate implementation of the laws and regulation or conditions that you are given when you're given these regulations or these approvals, then it becomes very expensive. So that is my second reason of why I think NEMA compliance, NEMA approvals can be very expensive and can be a waste of money. The other reason I think it can be is when you consider the ecological cost, not ecological, but the economical cost. The economic costs of degradation is too high. Okay, and look at it this way: when you get NEMA compliance licenses, it means you are meant to operate your business in a certain way. You're complying to environmental laws and regulations. You get. So there are things that you not be allowed to do in your business because then that goes against the environmental regulation. For example, you not just dispose of wastewater into the river. You will need to get a permit for that, for you to be allowed to dispose that water into the river. Now, before you get this permit, before you're permitted to drain your wastewater into the river, you must do several tests, laboratory tests to that wastewater until it meets the standards that are allowed, that are not detrimental, that are not damaging, that are not going to degrade the quality of water in that river. You get. So then that way you have your permit. So getting an effluent permit means that the waste that you're going to release into the river is within the standards that are allowed. So not doing that means you are not complying. So you're releasing waste that might not be within the standards that are allowed. And when that water goes into the river, imagine what damage it could cause. The fish, you have the animals that live in the rivers, people who are consuming that water downstream. Like the other day, I was reading stories. I was reading an article, and they're talking about mercury and how mercury is being used by gold miners, the small scale miners of gold, especially in Western Kenya. They mix that mixture, concoction of soil, dust, water, mud, stone. They usually do it with water. So like the gold, they unakoroga until the gold particles will be left kind of sunk. So when you put mercury, apparently when you put mercury into that mix, the mercury and gold kind of amalgamate, they kind of join, separate. And so now you can be able to separate the gold mercury that has already joined and everything else. We all know the damages or the risk of exposure to mercury. These miners are using it on a daily basis because that is how they get their daily food. Now, of course, these businesses are not environmental compliant. Sometimes compliance can be expensive. I've already said that. And so most of them are illegal mining. Most of them are not compliant to these licenses or to these approvals, right? Now imagine that mercury, because some traces of mercury will definitely go down the stream. definitely will go down there as you're cleaning that thing. Wherever that wastewater is going, there is going to be traces of mercury. That water somehow is going to end up into the river, into the ocean, into the sea, so on. And then that mercury is going to be to find its way into the fish. The fish in Lake Victoria. That fish comes to Nairobi. I consume that fish. We consume that fish. It has mercury traces in it. Tomorrow we consume another fish. Over the years we are consuming the fish. And then at some point, now this accumulation of mercury now becomes carcinogenic to our body. And now we are suffering from cancer. All the money that you have earned, you use it to treat cancer. Or the property that you have, you're going to use it to treat cancer and other weird, funny diseases. That is just an example. I'm giving you the cycle of how environmental degradation or damage can be so costly. There is something that is called direct impact and indirect impact. There are those who are going to suffer direct impact, and there's now the indirect impact. There's cancer increasing, the rates are increasing. Our hospitals need to be equipped. The government needs to equip these hospitals. Maybe the government doesn't have that money, so they have to borrow to be able to equip the hospitals for the raising cases of cancer. And so they have to tax us more, or they have to increase the tax burden that we're already having, that is already too high. They have to get loan, they have to get aid from that. You see, it escalates so high, so much that it can even run out of hand. Simple actions of non-compliance can cause the whole of that web, the whole of that chain of economical cost, has so much economical cost. So the economical costs of degradation is already too high. And so, what I could say is that as much as getting the compliance is might be expensive, it saves us from such environmental degradation. It saves us from air degradation or impacting the water qualities, air quality, biodiversity, and even other areas, other aspects of the environment negatively. So, I would really, really still accept and say yes, environmental compliances are very high, but non-compliance is very more expensive. So I don't know, what do you think? I'm having mixed thoughts. Is environmental compliance really expensive? Is environmental compliance really expensive? What do you think? Let me know down in the comment section what you think, if it is really expensive. And as I said, make sure to reach us down in the comment section. Tell us what you think. Whatever you say, we read, we see it, we agree, or we agree to disagree. It doesn't matter. So, this is what I say: non compliance being even more expensive than obtaining the approval licenses, then we need to obtain these licenses. Non compliance is more expensive, so we need to apply for these licenses, because as we apply for these licenses, it is cheaper. I also want to say it is very important to make sure you implement the action plans that have been developed for you by your environmental consultant, because that one then it reduces the cost of environmental compliances. There's no need of paying me for an environmental audit and not do nothing. So that next year when I come to audit you again, I'm still finding the things that I found last year. So the same, there's nothing to improve, there's nothing to add. So it's kind of a repetition of what we did last year. Then it is definitely a waste of money. But if you did something, then I would be like, oh, okay, you have improved here. Then what happened when you improved? And we grow your business through to becoming a sustainable business. Now, the other thing that I want to say is that the high economic cost of environmental degradation beats the whole argument you would have of environmental compliance is expensive. I think when you look at the degradation that might come from non-compliance, then it beats the whole logic of saying environmental compliance is expensive. I don't know how then you'd still argue that environmental compliance is expensive when you look at it from a wider dimension of how environmental degradations can be expensive. So that one is so there's a lot to argue about there. But as much as we're talking about this, I'd say there is need for balance. We need to balance environmental conservation and business viability. There's need, and that one is lacking, and it needs to be worked on. Yes, I'm an environmental consultant, but I still say some of these permits can be very harsh to some businesses. So, yes, there needs to be a balance. So think about it and let me know what finally you think about it. And this video comes to you. It is sponsored by Ecodid Consultancy Company. That is where we come to your project and assist you or we help you transition your business to a sustainable business. Like I've told you, the youth, the next largest market has said they want a sustainable Africa. So let's start aligning our businesses in the right direction. So you call us when you have an environmental need. You need an environmental impact assessment. You need an environmental audit. You need help with environmental compliance. Anything that you need that is environment, we got you. So down in the description, we're going to link our profile. You can see where we have worked, how many people we have helped, kind of businesses that we have worked with, and see if your business is one of those businesses that we might help you. Also check out our website www.ecody.co.ke. That is where you get everything that you need about our company. So thank you for joining us in this episode today. I hope you have enjoyed the episode of Ecology Podcast. Remember, the power to make a positive impact is in our hands. Okay, so if you love what you have heard, if you love what you've seen, please share these good news. Also subscribe to us if you're watching on YouTube. Make sure to rate and even review our podcast in your most favorable or your favorite podcast platform. Connect with us on social media, like I said, and make sure to check out our brand new website www.ecody.co.ke. Together, I believe we can make the world of a difference. Together, we can make a world of difference. Until next time, stay green, stay inspired, and keep spreading those positive vibes. This is Miriam Mukami, aka Mukami the Environmentalist, signing out. Echo out.
Ecology sustainability is our business.